Okay, welcome to our team call for the Wildflower Tribe for Tuesday, August 22nd. It is, I can't believe number one, it's like we're all the way into the end of August already. School's starting, we have a lot of things going on with people in general, and a lot of new people on the team also after Shift Shop, which is really awesome. So a lot of people have had really great transformations, and that's kind of what made me start thinking about this topic. It's just the fact that we've all had these amazing transformations, and I think a lot of people have come into coaching so new, and they've shared it maybe like their transformation photos. But aside from that, and if this doesn't speak to you, like if you're an older coach, then just some things hopefully that you could take away to share with your coaches, and then just other things to think about too, because I don't know, I realized, we get those flashes, right, on this day, and it like takes you back to what you were posting before on Facebook, it's like time hop. But I was realizing when I was looking back through that I used to really, it's easy as you go along in this business to kind of lose that first excitement that comes with getting your first transformation. And so not only do I want to, through this call, help those people that have had their transformations, like continue to share that transformation journey in a way that connects with people, but also help us older coaches rekindle that excitement that is what's drawing people in the first place, if that makes sense. Because I think it's super easy to get off track, and then like we are having these like crazy deep, like I'm speaking for myself here because I know I'm so guilty, but I'm doing all of this personal development, and like all the things that I'm learning and growing through now are so different than what they were 3 years ago, to the point that like maybe I'm not connecting with anyone really anymore because I've changed so much and I'm evolving so much that I'm forgetting where people are. So that's the key, is like being able to dial into where you were when you started and hold on to that excitement throughout your entire transformation journey, which is never ending, right? So that's the goal of the call tonight. And I want to just first say, before we dive into this, I have a couple like subtopics. So if you have any questions, definitely type them in the chat. I feel like I have a lot of material written here, but who knows how long it will take. I'll try to get through it. But so the first thing I wanted to just talk about is, if you haven't in the page yet seen Carly's call about social media, it was just a pop-in live video chat that she did. It wasn't a whole call. It's probably like 10 minutes in length. No. My purse. I hate when she goes into my purse. It stresses me out. Anyway, so Carly's call was about 10 minutes in length. It's in the team page, and you can really easily like go through and watch it and figure out, I'll summarize it for you, what I wanted to share with you guys. But she really touches on narrowing down what your brand is. And that's how she really speaks to being able to connect with people in the first place, is by creating what your brand is and being like crystal clear on the people that you want to talk to. So I loved the idea that she mentioned, like jotting down 10 things that you really like. And then from there, narrowing that down to like your 5. Right? So let's just say like, and it could be anything. Like she was just saying, like when she did her 10, she was, and for me, I've like, since I felt like we really connected originally about our rings, and I've lost 2 of mine. But I love that she was even just saying like my rings, my long hair, my interest in yoga, like donuts, whatever. Like they don't have to be, these are not things that are Beachbody related at all. These are just things that you really enjoy. Like, so for me right now, I'm like, cool, like I'm really into crystals or like horoscopes, or I do love donuts. That's my thing. Actually, I added that one in. Whatever your 10 things are, just like random things that speak to you, like your likes, your interests, who you are. Like I love to go hiking. I love to be outside, adventuring. Like my whole kind of thing is like I like the idea of being free and be able to take road trips. So just like jotting down 10 and narrowing it down to your 10 things that make you and what your likes are, right? Those are going to be your brand. You can narrow it down from there to 5, which is what I would recommend. So you have 5 that you're really focusing on. But in that 5, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because in that 5, one of them is going to be Beachbody. One of them is going to be your transformation story. And that transformation story is going to be not just physical, but it's going to be emotional, it's going to be physical, it's going to be a mental transformation. You're growing and learning all of these new things and new skills because you're surrounded by, you know, empowering, positive, encouraging people. So when we're talking in this call, I want to just make it really clear that, like, we are, this is not all that we're talking about, right? This is just a segment of the 5 things that make up our brand. Does that make sense? So we can't like overdo it with all things Beachbody. We still have to be able to connect with the people that we're meant to connect with via these other things. And then they will be able to see what we're doing with Beachbody because we connected about the other things that are our brand. Hold on, sorry, 1 second. Blakey is out there, baby, okay? Go get it. Go talk to Grandpa Bob. Why don't you go talk to Grandpa Bob? No. Okay, well, I think your Blakey's out there and so is Grandpa Bob. That sounds like a good fit. Okay, so locked her out. Okay. So one of those things is going to be our transformation journey. Mental, physical, emotional, all the pieces. And in the beginning of the call, before I started recording, Katie was talking about how, you know, when you share your transformation pictures, that's when you're going to see like the biggest booms in your business, right? Like people are going to sometimes they're going to come to you. Sometimes it's going to seem like super easy to send out your invites because you posted your transformation. But the transformation is not just a one-time thing. The transformation has to be ever evolving in order for you to continue to have that rush. Like that makes sense, right? Like you have the big rush when you share transformation, but you have to continue to be evolving, continue to have a transformation in order to continue to keep your business in a place that you want it to stay. So some questions to think about. 5 questions to think about when you're coming up to the point, you know, like you're doing a program. Everyone's doing a program. You should always be doing a program or in between a program. But when we're doing a program, these things, I'm sure, are always things that are happening to you. So I wrote down just 5 things if you're struggling on what to post throughout your transformation that you can think through. What did I struggle with today? What did I learn today? What did I celebrate today? What did I overcome today? And what am I happy about today? And notice that I said today, because if you're having a journey, those things are happening every day. There should be something that you're celebrating. There should be something that you're happy about. There's probably something that you're struggling with. Do you have a question?
Yeah, can you repeat the questions again? Sorry, you went really fast.
Yeah, totally. Struggle with today, learn, celebrate, overcome, happy about today.
Sorry, what was the last one?
Happy or joy. I was going to write joy, but happy.
Okay.
So how do we, you know, okay, so if we're having our transformation journey, every day these things are going to come up. We're not cookie cutters, we're not perfect, and that's to be expected. You know, I shared actually just right before this call that I actually didn't do my first workout for the very first time ever that I started a program. I did not do workout 1, which is like the worst ever thing I've ever done. I feel like, no.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I was totally shocked. I was like, whoa.
No, who would have expected that from me? Yeah, it felt really bad. And I was like, gonna pretend. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna pretend, because you know what? Life happens. I went to a solar eclipse. I was in a lot of traffic and it sucked. And I got home super late and I was, you know, exhausted. And all I wanted was a glass of wine. That's the reality. And we're not supposed to be these perfect people either. So know that, you know, there's power, and this is not in my notes, but there is power in sharing the past struggles and pain points and hurts. But the real power is in sharing what is happening right now. Because that's the vulnerable piece. Like no one wants to say like, hey, I did this today. But it's easy to be like, hey, I did this like last year and I've come so far. That makes you look good, right? Like that feels good. You've come really far. But if I share what I did wrong yesterday, that is what hurts, like that's the hard, raw piece. And that's what people need to know, because they need to know that if you can do it, that they can do it too. And that's why this is so important, to share all of the things. And that's why I wrote and underlined, literally when I wrote my notes even for this call, I underlined the word today. It doesn't always have to be about today, but I would just encourage everyone to think more about what's happening in the now rather than like just how far you've come. Because sometimes it's really hard for people to understand how they could have possibly come that far as you've come. They want to see the day to day so that they can look at you and think, okay, she's not perfect. And if she can do it and pick herself up and continue to do this, then I can do this too. And that's the reason that being a coach works. And that's how we're going to connect with people, is by sharing the transformation along the way. All of the things that happened in our mind daily. So how do we share these kinds of things every day? Obviously, we have to have these experiences to be able to share them. And so there's 5 ways that I wrote down, another 5, for how to ensure that we're actually having these experiences. They're not going to chat. Number 1 is that we have to be doing the vital behaviors. So hopefully everyone knows what the vital behaviors are. They are being a product of the product, which means we're doing a program, reading personal development, which is like so important. Raise your hand if you're reading a book right now. Okay. So, I mean, we like have to be reading a book, because guaranteed, what are you learning if you're not reading or like listening to something, right? You have to be learning. So vital behaviors, product of the product, personal development. You are inviting to our challenge groups, which is scary, and you're facing fears there, obviously, inviting to something. And then the 4th one is recognizing someone. And that's going to help you a lot with celebrating and happy, right? Like you're recognizing someone, you're super happy about, joy-filled about their success, and celebrating their success. So
can I ask you a question about that, Kelly?
For sure.
About recognizing, do you ever ask, like, because I recognize challengers within the challenge group, but do you ever ask challengers if it's okay to recognize them like on your wall, on your personal wall?
Yeah, I know I don't see Mika on the call, but before she decided to be a coach, I think this is actually the reason she decided to be a coach. So I asked her if I could share transformation. She finally said yes. I've asked her for a really long time. And then when I shared her transformation, she had all these people asking her what she was doing, and she was like, oh, maybe I should coach. So
awesome. So do you think I should talk to like people like Meg and Kara and stuff like that, just asking them if I can share their transformation? How do you go about that? Like just sending them a private message and asking?
For me,
straight.
When people share at the end of the challenge group, those are kind of the people that I know are going to be the comfortable ones with sharing their results. But potentially still not comfortable sharing publicly, so obviously you want to ask. But I asked her because I saw that she shared in our personal page in our challenge. But I think I even just commented under the picture and was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Can I share this?" And then I messaged her after.
Okay, because even like you see Megan, she posted her 30-day before and after. They were like incredible in our group, in the shift shop one. Yeah. Incredible. I was like blown away, but I didn't know if
results in our group, those are the people that, like, I mean, not only do they want and deserve to be celebrated, but they might actually want to be coaches. They're super proud of their results, and they're fired up, and they're probably going to do another round. So they're awesome people to recognize publicly for sure. Okay, cool. Okay, so the vital behaviors is number 1. Number 2 is to work on our transformation every single day, which kind of circles back to number 1, right? So we're working on our transformation physically by eating and being intentional with our eating plans. We're doing our workouts, and we are doing the personal development piece. And I'm gonna dive in. The other 3 here are a little bit more so towards personal development, because that piece is so important. You can't just show up every day with a physical transformation and expect your business is going to grow. I'm just not. Number 1, like after a while, no one's going to give a shit. Sorry, just not. But after a while, like you have to have some more, you're learning more, you're seeing more, you're developing more. So you have to be reading and growing your mind, or listening at least to some sort of audio, which is, again, a vital behavior anyway. So we're working on our transformation every single day, and that it does not mean just physical. So number 3 is to start with your goal. And I know that might seem kind of like a weird thing to place here, but we have to start with what our goal is. What do you have to learn? And then figure out what it is that you have to learn or be to make the impact that feels good to you, that aligns with that goal, right? So you know, if your goal isn't written down, you're going to struggle here. You're going to struggle with finding the personal development piece that's a good fit for you. So write down what I hope your goals are written down. Obviously there can be more than one. As I started the year, I had 10, and then I like circled in and honed in on that one, right? But when you see your goal, you obviously have a gap in where you are mentally and emotionally, and in maybe all these other areas. Like for me, it's like leadership, mindset, belief. Like, what are these things that I know I need to develop to get me from where I am now to what my goal is? Like, who does that person, what is the growth that I see? So when you can look at your goal and figure out where the gap is, that gap is where we have to be placing our emphasis on personal development. That's what we're growing through, right? That's a part of our transformation. So be intentional. And then alongside that goal, I said at the end there, like, an impact that feels good to you. So we all have to know who we want to help. Like, what does our impact look like? Because this is bigger than just selling a challenge pack. It is creating transformations, right? Which is the purpose of this call. So how and what kind of transformations do we want to help create? What does that impact look like? So number 4 is be intentional about your personal development, which number 3 was write the goal down, which is giving you that gap. And then be intentional with the development that you're doing. And number 5 is know what the impact is. So alongside the brand that we talked about at the beginning of the call, your 5, and an avatar is a totally different subject I'm not going to dive into, but a brand and avatar kind of go together, right? But you also have to have that mission statement, and that circles back to your impact. So the days that I feel like I'm totally killing it on social media, I do this one thing every day. It's nothing crazy, but I read it and listened to it in a podcast, and I printed off the sheet, and I could give it to you guys if you want. It's called the Story Brand Productivity Calendar or something. I gotta look it up. But at the bottom of the page, it says, what is your mission statement? And it asks you to write it literally every single day. So for me, it's to empower women to live, God, I should know it if I'm writing it every day, right? Empower women to live their freest mentally, physically, and emotionally and financially, right? So whatever it is, like, your mission statement is something that you should be writing down every day, because it's in that clarity that you're going to be able to speak to your people and connect to your people through your transformation, but also having that clarity. And usually that mission statement ties back to why and what your transformation is about, right? So they're all linked together. So know what it is that you want to make an impact on. And then, okay, so we have our 5. Now I'm kind of like jumping into the next section here. So we know what our questions are that we need to ask ourselves to post on social media about our transformation. We know how to have those experiences. And now I was just going to talk to you about how to answer the questions, right? Like, okay, so we know what the questions are, like, what did I learn today? What did I celebrate today? What did I overcome today? Now, like, how do I post that on social media in a way that's connecting? And I think it's really important that, again, we think back to where we were. Like, when you started, what was the problem that you had? And how does a program, a product, or an experience that Beachbody offers help you solve that problem, right? So you have all of these 5 questions, right? But like, speaking in a way that is a story. Like, you can't just say, today I lost 5 pounds. Okay, like, I found out I lost 5 pounds. Cool, but like, what did that look like? Like, what did it look like? Like, tell it in a way that maybe, and a big thing is being able to flash people back to where it started. Like, a month ago, if you would have told me that I could have lost 5 pounds in 20 days, I would have told you were crazy. I worked a busy schedule, blah, blah, blah. Someone reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to join a challenge group. I was super skeptical. Like, put the pieces together so that people can see where they are and that that's possible for them too. Does that make sense? So you're starting where you are and you're telling the story through what they would go through. So I love the example I read in the book, because you're holding. Okay, so you're holding a torch for someone else and showing them the way through your story. I just love that. So here I am, like, I've taken this torch through this scary hall and it sucked and it was super hard, but here's what came at the end of it. And just thinking through that before and after. Where's my person? What story do I have that aligns with that? So we're not posting like, this is what happened, but like, this is what happened because I did XYZ. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's what's going to connect, because people don't connect with, like, even as it refers to coaching. Like, I think one of the biggest myths I always told myself was, hey, when I'm making a lot of money with Beachbody coaching, I'll be able to tell people they can join my team. And that's such bullshit, because no one is going to be able to like look at me. Like, if I posted something like, hey, I made like whatever crazy amount of money this week, they'll be like, oh, cool. Like, whatever, like, that's not possible for me. They don't want to see the end result. They want to see all the stuff along the way. They want to hear all the stuff along the way. So that's why it's so important too, to be able to speak, back to where I started with what happened today. Because if people are watching your journey, they're watching your days. They're watching every day as it unfolds. And that's the power of, like, for me, like, was I perfect at social media when I started in Portland 3 years ago? I think it's really funny. Actually, I just got someone that joined our team that was a first challenger of mine. And I think back about like what I was posting, and I'm like, man, like, she's really seen a lot of growth. But that's what's so cool about this, is like, people that are watching you are seeing it all. And that's what they need to see that, hey, I saw where she started and that wasn't great. But so it's okay to make those missteps. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to admit where you're struggling, where your faults are, where you're overcoming things every single day, because it's that long-term story that's really going to speak such powerful volumes for someone that's ready to join in and do a challenge or be a coach on the team later down the road. Another couple of things just to think about are, as we're sharing our transformations, and these are more like tactical, I guess, but just making sure that our first lines are like hook lines. A lot of times I change my first line if I'm not getting good engagement. If I post a picture in a whatever, my whole words, sorry, I can't think. And then I look back at it and I'm like, would that speak to me? And I usually decide no if I'm getting like 3 likes. And I'm like, maybe I should change it. And one of my biggest strategies is just like meeting people where they are. Like, okay, that line meant nothing to someone else, but if I said I skipped day 1 of my workout, people would be like, what the hell? Like, why, what? Let me read this. So think about like this, almost like the shock factor, but in real life term way, if that makes sense. People want to, like, it's good to post the before in the first line. Does that make sense? Like, where the story starts, not where you are right now with like what you really want to share. Okay. So the opening line that explains like where you were before or where you're going with this, or a hook line, whatever. The struggle that you had, and I already talked about how the struggle that you have has been solved through, and when I say Beachbody program or product or experience, like that also includes our community. And I think that people, I mean, as a team, I know that's something that's been super important to me, and probably a lot of us can say the same thing, like having these friendships and having this community. Like, I would just be here by myself right now, like, I mean, my dad's here, but a lot of nights I've been here by myself trying to figure out like how to be a mom and a daughter and a wife and have friends and feel like I had purpose, right? So like this community to me, when I was feeling at my lowest, was the most important piece. And that's something that we can speak to all the time. Having the community, having the encouragement, the positivity when it's just so hard to find, I think, really good, positive people. And here we are connected by this common thread. Like I just actually saw that a random person from our big team Drop the Cookie, was in Big Sky, which is where my husband runs a hotel. And I reached out to her and I was like, and for a moment I was like, God, that's so cool. Like I think I met her at Summit a couple times, but it's so cool that we have this like family all over the country where I'm like, I think I know what she looks like, but who cares? I think it'll be awesome to meet up, So speaking to things like that, I think that's a piece that a lot of people miss. Maybe they don't want to admit it. I know I was that person that didn't want to admit I needed more friendship and support, but that's a big piece that we could speak to. Okay. Other things that are more tactical, just like comments. So we definitely want to make sure as a team that we're helping and encouraging each other's transformations. So commenting is going to do a lot more for someone when it comes to their, God, sorry, my brain's not working so well yet. What is the word for, comes up in your feed more? Comment is going to do a lot more for people to get their stuff out into the feed more, because how it works is the people are liking and commenting, your posts are going to be pushed to the front of the news feed. I'm totally blanking on the word, but I think you guys know what I mean. So making sure that you're commenting on everyone's post, it's going to do a lot more for someone than just liking the post. So just something to think about as you're helping the team. Aim for engagement. So with that in mind, like think through too, and I mean, don't put this like in the forefront of your brain as much, but just because I know this is a lot of information, but just thinking about where your post would warrant a comment, so like if when you read it, would you feel inclined to comment, or would you just be like, cool, like the picture, So think about the comments too, because that's what's going to boost it out more. Or questions, and that's something that I think we talked about at Summit. I don't know if everyone did. I think that was in one of the leadership trainings, but just instead of going for likes, going for questions, going for comments, so pushing that out there, thinking about that when you're posting. The images obviously are super important, but I was listening to someone that was like not in the Beachbody world actually, and they were talking about how images are really cool, and I mean 100%, you should aim to have an awesome image of you and not Beachbody like graphic or not a graphic. Graphics are kind of like deterring people now as more marketing, network marketing comes in, I think. And just staying up to date with that, right? Like in the beginning, I used graphics and text on my stuff all the time, but now I feel like that's almost a little bit of a deterrent. People don't want to see as much that looks spammy, But anyways, alongside that, your text is important. So you can't just put out a good picture, which I'm gonna totally take some credit for doing. Just like put out a cool picture and be like, oh, that's it, I'm good. But at the same time, know that like your picture is speaking your story too, right? So you can't just like have the text and not have a picture that's like your story. Like your picture also is your transformation. You're showing that through image. So some things with that are super small, but being by a window is so huge. And you know what? This is like the dumbest thing ever, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I literally wipe off my camera every single time I take a picture. Like if your pictures look foggy and not clear, like I take my shirt and I wipe off the camera because it makes such a big difference. It literally is like night and day. Your picture will look like crap if you don't do that. So just an editor, I just like to use just basic filters on my pictures, like Instagram, but I use Afterlight all the time for everything. I think everyone knows that about me. Afterlight is the name of it, but there are tons of other ones. Snapseed. You guys can type in other ones. And then, okay, people follow you. And then just the other thing that we were mentioning before, as far as answering your questions and stories and sharing the transformation. Remember, people, to circle back up to the beginning of what we were talking about, like people are following you based on your other pieces of your brand, most likely. And then they decide, hey, they're following me because they like XYZ about me, and we totally click on that. so maybe maybe this is cool. Like maybe she's legit because like she likes this and I like this. And I actually do also want to get fit because everyone does. So knowing that this whole piece, the transformation sharing piece, is a thing that is speaking to people because you've also developed the other pieces of you. Does that make sense too? Okay. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about. Actually, that didn't take as long as I expected. I probably was talking super fast. But if anyone has any questions about any of that, I would love to answer them. I just, I think, this is kind of a piece that we haven't touched on in a while. And it's just so, so important because people are going to be attracted to you based on what you're doing. Like everything that you're doing behind the scenes is easier when you're doing this piece right. And that is like huge. I mean, for me, that's something that I really latched on to like really quickly in this business because I was working full time. I had a toddler, I had a shit commute. Like I was like, where am I going to do all these things? Like, I don't know. But I knew that if I was showing what I was doing publicly in front of the scenes, that everything behind the scenes was going to be less or more streamlined, right? Seamless, if you will. Sorry, my mouth is so dry. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Was that helpful? Okay.
Hey, Kelly, I'm at work. Did you record the beginning part too so I can go back and re-listen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, congrats to you. Success Club 8, that's awesome. And Sabina, yes. Killing it. Does anyone else? And she's in her second month of Success Starters, which is awesome. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Even?
I have a question for Nika. Can you hear me? Okay, I was just wondering because we were talking about you when you weren't here.
Oh, great! I hope it was good.
Yeah, Kelly had just mentioned that because we were talking about shouting people out, like, for how well they've done with their transformations. And she had mentioned that she did that to you before you started coaching. And I was wondering, as a challenger, how did you feel when Kelly approached you about asking you to do that? And how did you feel personally when she did share that on her wall and shared it publicly and you got all that feedback from your friends and family? I was just wondering how you felt about it.
Mm-hmm. By the time she asked me about it, I was in a place where I was super ready to talk about it because I had started to notice that the transformation was huge and I was feeling mentally changed. And it had become such a way of my life that by the time she asked me, it felt like a natural thing to do. Now, the day the photos came out online, I was totally freaked because I was in my bathing suit on Facebook. And then also in the outfit that I had originally taken my before photos in before I even started the 21-day fix a year ago. So I was like in these little red skivvy shorts and this little gray sports bra. So basically in my undies online. So I just trusted you, Kelly. I just said to myself, like, this is how this has to happen. I have to trust the process. I have to turn over all of my fears to the process and just let it happen. And so I didn't look at Facebook the whole day. I knew it happened and my phone was blowing up and I just decided not to look because it was freaking me out. And I just realized that I had to let it go. I had to let it go. It was already out there and see what happened. And then the positivity that came back made me realize that I have just been not helping anyone but myself this whole time. And that's crazy. And so many people private messaged me. I had people texting me and calling me. And I just realized that to not help other people is selfish. And I've been doing it for so long and been a part of the group for so long. I couldn't believe that I hadn't tried that at all. And so, to be honest, there's no good time. There's like no good time to post pictures of yourself in your undies online. But once you do it, the fear just gets smaller. It just gets smaller and you get stronger. And all of a sudden, every other picture that I've posted, even ones that are better or worse than that, however you want to judge them, it's been easier and it gets easier. And you guys have been right the whole time. Like everybody told me it's going to get easier, Nika. And I didn't believe anyone until it just happened. So actually, you know, Kelly, that's your job, is to like give me that shove off the cliff. And you did. And it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So can you re-record what you just said so I can send that to everybody that I want to ask to do this if they're like, I don't know. That was so well put. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
no, you can record me anytime. I've got lots to say.
Actually, Nika, I'm like so upset. So I was thinking about our challenge video again. I don't know, like I had been putting it together, and your text and work, like when you were speaking, it wasn't lining up with your mouth moving, and I kept thinking it's gonna work whenever I like put it into the video format, but it didn't, and I was like so upset because I literally was crying when she sent me her video. Like I was crying. Anyway. I won't go into that.
So I still have the video because
on your side.
It's in my phone because it's the only video I've ever made about my story.
Yeah.
And
you press play. If it is like working, then maybe we'll try that again because I had like put it all in.
I should try to figure out how to send it to you. I'm thinking I should just put it on a USB and mail it to you.
Yeah, maybe that.
So you can just have the original.
Honestly, those videos are really powerful. I like last week's caller a few weeks ago, Ashley was saying that she was going to make videos to send to challengers and emails explaining how to do stuff. I was like, that's an incredible idea. Even when I looked back at my video from when I first started and I posted that online because Kelly asked me to make a video, like a whole bunch of people to make a video. She was going to put something together about like why we were coaching. And I literally like just started coaching. And I was like in tears, and then I didn't originally send that to her. I sent it to her later, but I posted it one day online. It was like the most embarrassing video ever, but it got a really great response because people could really connect to it. So, and you could literally see the difference because I was like just starting. I was really chubby. So,
I love all of that, and I think what's super powerful about this from Nika is that, I mean, she's not kidding. She was like a challenger for a really long time. And every now and then I was like, hey, you should totally be a coach. And she was like, yeah, I totally should, shouldn't I? And like nothing really came of it. And then, but I just kept saying it like, hey, you should do this. And she was like, yeah, I should. I don't know why I don't. And then all of a sudden it was like, and that's just, I think it's a lesson to all of us too, you know, like even for me, I'm like, well, what happened between like A and C, D or F or whatever, you know, but it just wasn't her time yet. So just like continuing to check in, like, you want to, because you're doing it in our challenge group, 100%.
So do you remember the last month before I actually decided to be a coach, my excuse was that I needed to make money, so I didn't have time to coach. And Kelly was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Are you telling me you need to make money so you can't coach? And I was like, I need to make money. I can't coach. I don't have time. I have to have a full-time job doing something else. And he was like, you're crazy.
And I was like, wait, what? I think I sent you a voice message after that one. I was like,
yeah. Yeah, you basically told me.
If I can add a little bit into Nikki's story as well. I remember watching Nikki as a challenger over and over. And I know probably a couple of us have reached out to Nikki to tell her that she would be such an amazing coach. And you kind of did dabble a little bit in the team page, but you kept saying no. But like you said, it's a complete mindset shift when you decide to jump in. And ultimately the person has to be ready. and in that mindset? Because before you said, oh yeah, like I'll try it or whatever, and like you kind of hung out in the team page and you would comment every now and then, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden there was like, okay, I am going to actually do this now. And that is when you've like completely lit up. And I remember you too saying that you couldn't coach because of your work situation,
Mm-hmm.
and you were afraid of what people would say or do or think, and you didn't want to share with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really think that such a big thing in my life that holds me back always is fear, just straight up fear. And fear comes in so many forms for me. Fear can be, fear of the future, fear of my finances, fear of what people think about me, fear of what do I look like, fear I'm going to do it wrong. It's just a long list that can be latched onto something for me at any given time. And normally the list is also completely untrue. That's the caveat there, is that like I can be sitting in this list of fear, and on the other side of that, none of it's true. People aren't thinking anything about me, or my finances are fine, my future is unpredictable, I'm okay today, all that stuff. And so I was really caught up in the idea that I couldn't do it. I didn't have time. I wouldn't be a successful coach, and that I wouldn't be able to post anything honest on Facebook. And the other side of all that is that it's absolutely been the best avenue for me to walk through fear and to get rid of it and to just talk to people. And I feel more loved by my friend group and by the world just by getting my stuff out there. It's helping to open up doors just in ways that I didn't even know that I had shut. Like my self-confidence was destroyed before I started the program physically, but mentally it's been a slow opening. And now I'm putting out so much of my spirit on Facebook. It feels like I'm just more approachable to many people in the world, which is something that I have always wanted, but I didn't know that I could do.
If ever there was like a story reason behind like what we just talked about, it's that probably, because like like having your own transformation from the inside out is like what makes you able to connect and be a good coach. And like she wouldn't have learned all of this and now is able to gift this and share this if she wasn't first doing it for herself. So I think that's super powerful. Like even working through fears, like that's what I remind myself of. And like, social media is obviously a piece of our business, but like on a deeper level, your business isn't going to grow unless you're helping people. You're not going to be able to really help people unless you're first helping yourself. And I think that, in Nika's story, this is obviously, it's like so clear. And Nika, I've known Nika for a really long time. kind of, but she's come a really super long way. And it's, again, like, it's why we do what we do. Like, you have to be the transformation to give a transformation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love you. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
I have a question, or I guess, I don't know if you guys already talked about it, but when talking with people privately and like looking at like myself reflectively and where I started and where I am now, a lot of the, I can't think right now, the reasons people don't want to do shit, objections, come to play. And like, I have a really hard time posting about them on my personal page, not because I'm nervous about saying stuff, but I'm nervous about coming off like a total bitch, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to be like, stop being an idiot and just do this thing. So like, how do you take an objection, like say money or not having time, and combat it without coming off too strong and still being kind of like, I don't know, welcoming, if that makes sense? Because lately a lot of stuff I'm about to say, like, I just feel like it's going to come off super bitchy.
Well, first off, I get real attitude sometimes if something really offends me in the moment. Like I realize that I'm like, okay, should I just take a step back here? I have this objection in my mind. I'm gonna wait like an hour or so, and then I will make my post. Like if I do it and like right then, it's too much. But I think like, I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about really. It's just like being able to speak to the objection through your story. Like I don't think personally there's anything wrong with coming off a little bit stronger sometimes, as long as it's not obviously all the time where you feel like you're just like yelling at people. But like your personality, and then again, Ashley, like just be conscious of the fact that like I think, we've talked about this before, like that is sort of like your fear is that you are not emotional, like you don't feel as empathetic. So like, of course, this is kind of being pushed into the forefront of your brain. Like you're afraid of coming off too harsh because like you feel too harsh, So it's not maybe what people would even think about you. It's just like your fear is creeping in about like who you are and what you lack. Does that make sense? So I think like thinking about that, but then like when you're speaking to an objection, just show it, like share it in the story form. So it's not like, hey, you think Shakeology is expensive and you're an idiot. Like it's like, hey, I thought Shakeology was super expensive when I first started, but like I was buying all these weird supplements and doing all this research and like trying to put together the perfect concoction of like what I needed for my body, and I found out that I actually was saving money. Like tell the story in a way where it speaks to that without just saying that. Does that help? I mean, I feel like, I don't know if it does or not, but I mean,
I would also run it by somebody else if you think it does sound like it's coming across.
If I think like I'm like, oh, that post is a little much. Will you like tell me what you think, and she'll tell me if she thinks it's too harsh or not. But usually those are the posts that you get a lot of traction on. I mean, the times that I've been super ballsy, I'm like, oh, people are like really liking this post actually because it's real. That's you. That's how you feel. You got emotional about it. That's not a bad thing to get emotional about something. It's not emotional in the way that you like think you should be, but you're showing emotion because you feel so passionately about it,
Can I ask everyone just really quickly what everyone's like biggest objection is that you guys usually get?
Money, especially for Shakeology.
Yeah, for me, it's usually time. Actually, most people, it's just not the right time. They want to wait.
You type it in too if you want. Time or money, though, basically, right? Yeah. As far as the money piece, I think, I don't know. There was a lot of good stuff that Carl posted in the I'm Here to Help group, and then he's been posting it in the Champions page, like a lot of the same info with those yellow banners. But like the idea of sharpening the pencil and like digging into like where that is stemming from, I think like when I was like really concentrating on that during the group, like during the month of June, I felt like really fired up too about the business, because I was like, I can really help people if I figure out where it is that they really are getting this like weird hold up, and like being able to think like, okay, they're telling me it's expensive. Like, all right, why do you feel like it's expensive? Like not being afraid, not letting the fear, like Nico was saying, rule, like lean into the faith that is your belief that you're going to actually be able to help someone if you can figure out together where their fear lies. Like this is negotiation 101, but like for real, like you have to come to the mutual decision together. So show them that you're a partnership, like, hey, like, okay, get it. Like, let's talk about what your finances look like. Like, how much do you spend on groceries? Like, come to them in a place that is for real, a friend trying to help them make it work. Don't put the idea in your mind that they would never want XYZ. Put it in your mind that they do, but they don't know how to make it work. And I think like time is tricky too, but it's not at the same time. It's like, okay, well, again, when I felt like I was on my game with that, I was like, okay, you have no time. What does your day look like? What is your schedule? What are your hours? And people responded really well to that. You know, they knew that I was like really trying to help them see if it was going to be a good fit. And if they didn't want to respond, they don't have to respond. If they feel like I'm being pushy, that's fine. Like, I mean, I'm not. I actually like, but make sure you're coming from that pure place too, you know? And again, I think it comes down to that belief, and like that's what we have to like remind ourselves. And I don't know where I heard this. I heard it so long ago, but I still on repeat have this in my head. I'm like, get out of your head and into your heart. Out of your head. Fear is in here, but this is where we really help someone. So if you're operating from that place of fear and you're not digging into the right questions, those things correlate. The fear is ruling instead of the desire to really help someone. Anything else? Again, I know this call is like kind of we've changed topics like 88 times, but the underlying theme of this was just, you know, these things are gonna come up. All of your stories, if you're doing the job of talking about these questions daily, you're going to answer people's objections through your stories. So that's where this is so important, right? Like, it's going to seem natural because it's natural to document your day. And that's what it should feel like, a documentation of your day. That's it. It's not anything crazy. And you're going to guaranteed be speaking to some of the objections and fears that people have. Anyways, thanks everyone for getting on. If there's nothing else, I guess we'll cut it short, but I really enjoyed this. I love all the participation. It was awesome. Thanks everyone for speaking up and asking the questions, and I guess I will talk to you guys later. All right, good night.